welcome to Local Perspectives, local issues of local interest. I'm Reid Mullings. Schools. Yes, we talk a lot about education. Are schools failing, in particular, young black men? Well, we wanted to get an expert on, and we certainly did. From Columbia University, Dr. Christopher Emdin is with us. Hello, sir.
Hello, Reid. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
You author of an interesting work here, Urban Science Education for the Hip-Hop Generation. And so let me ask this, first of all. Young black men, is this a problem with schools possibly failing them everywhere in the country, or is this geocentric to certain places like maybe New York?
This is absolutely a national issue, and I think it really speaks specifically to the needs of Oklahoma.
So why young black men? Is this a social thing, or is it something that we just haven't spent enough money on? And we'll get into some of the fixes for it a little bit later. But fewer than half graduate from high school nationally? How come?
Well, there are a bevy of issues. There's some that are really rooted in what's going on in classrooms. There are a lot that are also rooted in sort of societal issues, and then most of them also rooted in sort of these inherent stereotypes about African-American males that we've carried down for generations, and they're sort of like lying in the wait, and that we never have a really open conversation about. And so in schools, there aren't any specific programs that are geared towards African-American males in schools, and that's happening across the country. But then we also realize that these youth are oftentimes the ones that are most socioeconomically deprived. So opportunities to jobs, opportunities to a livelihood for their families. And then more broadly is this misperception that African-American males aren't interested in education, or that they're only interested in sports, or they're only interested in music, or they're only interested in incarceration and violence. And so we oftentimes carry these large misperceptions, and they play out in the classroom.
Now, why do black male students fare better in some places than others?
Well, in some places, there's a focus on their academic needs, and in others, there isn't. So, for example, in the schools that I've worked with that have had increasing success with African-American males, these youth have been the focus of the school. So we've been looking at, what are the kids engaged in that we use to connect them to school and then allow them to sort of blossom. We've been focusing on mentoring so they can see people who look like them teaching them in the classroom. Not that that's the be-all and end-all, but it's certainly an avenue that's worth exploring. We've been looking at ways to let them see professions that are other than what we perceive them to do. So something larger than being an athlete, something larger than being sort of someone who works locally, something that's geared towards the sciences or mathematics. And also just changing teaching practices. And in certain schools across the country that I've worked with, we found a ton of success. And so we're saying, bring the hip-hop into the classroom. Have kids create raps about their science and mathematics concepts. Have them sort of engage in more ways than the traditional way, because we know that the traditional way is just not working.